What if I told you that one of the smartest strategies you could ever employ is to play the fool? Sounds counterintuitive, right? Society teaches us that to succeed, we must be sharp, quick-witted, and always ahead of the curve. But what if I told you that sometimes the smartest thing you can do is to appear clueless, to act like you don't know what's going on, to show a little ignorance, and to watch the world around you unfold? Imagine this. You walk into a room filled with people trying to impress each other. Some are talking about their latest accomplishments, others are boasting about their expertise, while a few are arguing fiercely about their opinions. Everyone is positioning themselves, trying to prove they're the smartest or most capable. Then there's you. You say little. You observe, you listen, and perhaps you even ask simple questions. The kind of questions people would typically dismiss as naive. Yet in doing so, you gain something far more valuable than all the flashy displays of knowledge in the room: insight. This is the essence of playing the fool. It's not about being stupid, it's about giving the impression that you're not a threat. When you act like you don't know much, you lower people's defenses. They stop trying to impress you, and they start offering information freely. You'd be amazed at how many truths, secrets, and insights people will share once they think they're not being judged. Take Socrates, for example. He was considered one of the wisest men in ancient Greece, but his method was anything but conventional. Instead of delivering lectures or flaunting his intellect, he would ask questions. Simple, seemingly naive questions. He didn't act like he knew all the answers. In fact, he often claimed to know nothing at all. Yet, in asking these questions, Socrates made people think deeply, forcing them to reconsider their beliefs and assumptions. What Socrates understood, and what many of us overlook, is that when you play the fool, you open the door to discovery. People reveal their thoughts and feelings without even realizing it. By asking questions like, "Why is that important?" or "How do you know that's true?" you challenge others to explain themselves, and in their explanations you uncover insights that you would never have gained by simply asserting your own knowledge. But there's more to this strategy than just gathering information. Playing the fool also lets you observe dynamics. You begin to see who's truly in control, who's bluffing, and who's more interested in appearing smart than in actually being smart. It's like being a fly on the wall, only without the risk of being ignored. By acting unassuming, you can learn not just the facts, but the strategies, the hidden agendas, and the dynamics of power that often go unnoticed by the overtly confident. In a world where everyone is trying to stand out, the true power lies in stepping back. When you give the impression that you don't know much, people start to fill in the gaps for you. And as they do, you gain the advantage of understanding their worldview, their assumptions, and their hidden motivations, all without them even realizing it. So, while others are busy trying to prove they're the smartest in the room, you're quietly gathering all the tools you need to win the game. Because in the end, the person who can ask the right questions, who knows when to stay silent, and who doesn't feel the need to show off their intellect, that's the person who truly understands how to play the game. What if the most intelligent person in the room is the one who speaks the least? What if the person who seems the most clueless is actually the one who sees everything clearly? It's a paradox that's as old as time. The fool, often dismissed, holds hidden wisdom that can outsmart the so-called experts. And the best part? The fool doesn't need to flaunt it. They simply let others reveal it for them. Picture this. You're in a conversation with someone who seems to have all the answers. They're confident, they're articulate, and they're quick to showcase their knowledge. Now imagine that instead of responding with your own expertise or arguing their point, you just ask a simple question. Not a challenging one, but one that seems innocent, maybe even naive. But how do you know that's true? Or what makes you so sure? Suddenly, the confident expert is thrown off balance. They start to explain, to justify, and in doing so, they often reveal cracks in their reasoning or assumptions that they didn't even know they were holding. This is the core of the fool's wisdom. It isn't about knowing everything. It's about knowing when not to know. And more importantly, being willing to ask questions that force others to dig deeper. The fool is often the person who isn't afraid to say, "I don't know," because they understand that by admitting ignorance, they open the door to learning. When you admit you don't know, you invite others to teach you, to share their insights, and to expand your understanding in ways that can't be achieved by pretending you have all the answers. Take a moment to think about the times when you felt truly enlightened. Often, it wasn't because someone told you what to think, but because they asked you questions that made you think for yourself. That's what the fool excels at. They don't dictate, they don't lecture, they ask, and in asking, they prompt others to think critically, to question their own beliefs, and to uncover the truths they didn't even know they had. In fact, the wisdom of the fool lies in their ability to see the bigger picture. While others are focused on proving their knowledge or status, the fool is paying attention to what's unsaid. They notice the tiny details that others overlook, the body language, the hesitations in speech, the inconsistencies in someone's argument. The fool sees through the surface-level conversations and taps into the deeper currents of thought, motivation, and intent. This ability to observe without judgment is a form of wisdom in itself. It's not about gathering facts or memorizing information. It's about learning how people think, how they make decisions, and what drives their actions. The fool, by staying humble and open, becomes an expert in understanding people, not just their words, but their deeper motivations. The fool understands something that many miss. Wisdom doesn't always come from having the most answers. It comes from knowing how to ask the right questions, how to listen, and how to observe. And this type of wisdom, it's far more powerful than any book knowledge or surface-level expertise could ever be. What if the secret to building meaningful relationships wasn't about being the smartest person in the room, but rather about being the most approachable? Imagine this. You enter a social situation not to flaunt your achievements or impress others, but to simply connect. You don't come across as superior or distant. Instead, you play the fool. You ask questions. You listen intently. You let others share their thoughts, their ideas, and their experiences. In doing so, you create a space where people feel valued and heard, and that's when real connections happen. The power of playing the fool isn't just about gathering knowledge, it's about creating a sense of trust and comfort. When you act like you don't know it all, you give others the opportunity to teach you, to shine, and to feel important. People love to feel like they have something to offer. They love when their thoughts are acknowledged and appreciated. And, by playing the fool, you give them that gift. Take a moment to think about the relationships you've formed over the years. The strongest ones likely weren't built on competition or one-upmanship. Instead, they were formed on mutual respect, trust, and understanding. When you're not worried about proving your worth or showing off your knowledge, you allow others to let their guard down. You create a space where they can truly be themselves, without the pressure of living up to any expectations. This is where the fool's influence comes into play. By showing that you're willing to learn, willing to ask questions, and willing to listen, you make people feel seen and valued. And when people feel valued, they want to be around you. They want to share their ideas, their experiences, and their resources. Over time, this builds a network of connections that are genuine, not forced. Now, think about the impact this has in professional environments or in high-stakes situations. Often, the most influential people aren't the ones who are constantly talking or trying to prove themselves. It's the ones who listen, who ask the right questions, who make others feel comfortable and confident. By playing the fool, you give people the space to talk about what matters to them. You make them feel like the expert, and in doing so, you earn their trust and respect. In this way, playing the fool is not about being passive, it's about being strategic. The fool isn't just collecting knowledge or listening for the sake of it. They're building relationships, gathering insight into others' motivations, and creating an atmosphere where they are seen as someone others want to help and include. This positions them as a trusted ally, a collaborator, and someone with valuable influence. The beauty of this approach is that it's not about power in the traditional sense. Instead of dominating the conversation or controlling the narrative, the fool builds influence by making others feel important. And when people feel important, they're more likely to trust you, work with you, and open doors for you. In a world that's often obsessed with status and competition, playing the fool allows you to sidestep those dynamics and build real, lasting connections. And in the end, those genuine relationships are the ones that lead to the greatest influence. In a world that celebrates brilliance, intelligence, and dominance, playing the fool might seem like an outdated, ineffective approach. After all, shouldn't we strive to be the smartest, the most informed, the most capable? Isn't that how success is measured in today's fast-paced, competitive world? But what if the true power lies in something different? In stepping back, playing the fool, and letting others reveal their truths, their motivations, and even their weaknesses. The true genius of playing the fool isn't in pretending to be stupid. It's in understanding the deeper game, one where the fool doesn't need to prove anything. The fool doesn't need to show their strength or intellect. They simply allow others to showcase their own, often unknowingly giving away much more than they intended. In doing so, the fool uncovers insights and opportunities that would otherwise remain hidden. At its core, playing the fool allows you to transcend traditional power dynamics. In a society that thrives on competition, where everyone is vying for recognition and status, the fool operates from a position of quiet influence. They don't need to fight for attention or recognition. Instead, they use subtlety and patience to navigate the complex web of human interaction. And in doing so, they often come out on top, not because they outsmart others directly, but because they let others unwittingly provide them with the tools they need to succeed. There's something profoundly powerful about choosing to remain humble in a world that constantly encourages us to show off our achievements and assert our superiority. The fool doesn't need to posture or boast. They understand that true power comes not from dominating the conversation, but from understanding it, knowing when to speak and when to stay silent, when to ask questions and when to listen, when to play the game and when to let others play themselves into a corner. But how does this play out in real life? Let's look at the impact of playing the fool in various aspects of life. In business, in relationships, and in personal growth. In business. In the cutthroat world of business, the person who's always trying to prove their worth, the one who's constantly striving to outshine others, can quickly burn out. They might win battles, but they often lose the war. The constant need to one-up competitors or colleagues can lead to exhaustion, alienation, and missed opportunities. Enter the fool. When you play the fool in business, you stop trying to outsmart everyone. Instead, you focus on outlasting them. You build trust and rapport with colleagues, clients, and partners by showing genuine interest in their perspectives, asking questions, and listening. You stop competing for the title of smartest person in the room, and instead become the one who quietly absorbs information, learns from others, and positions yourself as a trusted confidant. This allows you to navigate the business world with ease, understanding that power doesn't come from dominating conversations, but from knowing when to step back and let others shine. In meetings, while others scramble to present ideas and argue for their points, the fool asks questions, listens carefully, and lets others offer their solutions. Over time, they become the person people turn to when they need guidance, not because they flaunt their intelligence, but because they understand how to use the insights they've gathered from others. The fool's strategy in business is not about acting ignorant. It's about being strategic in how you present yourself. By playing the fool, you can gather invaluable information from others without them even realizing it. You become the ultimate insider, not because you've overpowered anyone, but because you've made everyone else feel empowered. In relationships. In personal relationships, too, playing the fool can be a game changer. We all know that relationships thrive on trust, understanding, and mutual respect. Yet many people make the mistake of thinking that to gain respect, they need to constantly assert their superiority, whether it's in knowledge, achievements, or personality. But this can often backfire. People don't want to feel like they're being constantly one-upped or outdone. The fool, however, doesn't fall into this trap. By choosing to ask questions and listen deeply, they create an environment where others feel safe to express themselves, share their vulnerabilities, and show their true selves. When you play the fool in relationships, you are essentially saying, "I value what you have to say." You let the other person feel important, validated, and heard. And when people feel like they matter, they reciprocate. They trust you, they open up to you, and they want to build a deeper connection with you. But playing the fool in relationships doesn't just create bonds, it strengthens them. By stepping back and letting others reveal their thoughts and feelings, you learn more about them than you ever could by talking over them or trying to prove how much you know. You gain insights into their true motivations, their fears, and their desires, all of which create a more authentic, meaningful relationship. In romantic relationships especially, playing the fool can keep things fresh. You're not trying to impress your partner with endless facts or accomplishments. Instead, you're creating space for vulnerability, curiosity, and discovery. You're allowing your partner to be the expert on their own life, which not only builds trust, but also deepens emotional intimacy. In personal growth, on a deeper level, playing the fool is also about personal growth. It's about recognizing that no one has all the answers, and that's okay. When you stop pretending to know everything, you open yourself up to constant learning. You start seeing the world not as a place where you need to prove yourself, but as a place where you can absorb, adapt, and grow. The fool's wisdom is that they're willing to admit when they don't know something. They're willing to make mistakes, to ask for help, and to learn from others. This open-mindedness is what allows them to evolve, to become better versions of themselves. And by doing so, they naturally attract opportunities, respect, and influence. When you choose to play the fool, you release the need for constant validation. You stop trying to be perfect and, in doing so, free yourself from the shackles of perfectionism. This is where true growth begins, when you accept your limitations and use them as opportunities for learning and development. The ultimate power. The true power of playing the fool lies in its simplicity. It's the quiet force that operates behind the scenes. It's about understanding that the game isn't always about being the loudest, the smartest, or the most impressive. Sometimes the greatest power comes from being humble, from asking questions, from listening, and from letting others reveal their truths. By embracing this strategy, you gain more than just knowledge. You gain influence, respect, and the ability to connect with people in ways that others simply can't. The fool's wisdom is that they understand one of life's most profound truths. The more you play the fool, the more you end up outsmarting everyone else. So the next time you walk into a room, don't be afraid to play the fool. Let others think they know more than you. Let them talk. Let them reveal themselves, and in doing so, you'll find that you walk away with far more than they ever could have imagined. Sometimes, the smartest person in the room is the one who says the least and listens the most.